And Google, coming back to Google, they're worried because everybody's talking about how everybody's trying to move on to using Bing because Bing is connected to OpenAI and ChatGPT, and now everybody's using ChatGPT.
Today, I sit down with Hassan Aanbar, who is the CEO and founder of Bright Leads Media. Bright Leads Media is a SEO-based agency that specializes in helping ecom brands with their search engine optimization, Google Ads, as well as some email automation. Today, we're going to be chatting about all things SEO, how AI is going to be disrupting SEO, and so much more. I'm Nikita from aspectagency.com, and let's get into the podcast. Hassan, it's a pleasure to have you on the Scaling E-commerce podcast. There's a lot of stuff that I've been dying to get into, especially since SEO was my bread and butter way back, like 5 or 6 years ago. I fell out of it, and I know you're the go-to guy for SEO. So there's a lot of things that I want to talk about. And again, pleasure to have you on.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here.
Definitely. So your main niche is SEO for e-commerce brands, correct?
Yes.
Got it. So I got into the SEO game when it was around 2016 and 2017. Right now it's 2023. So it's been 6 to 7 years now. Over those last few years, what have you noticed, I guess, in the SEO space that makes the biggest difference on ranking side?
Okay, well, a lot has actually changed. And, you've been in the SEO game, so it basically changes year over year. We've had kind of like a period where nothing, it was kind of like fine until up to 2020, 2021. And then starting from 2021, what changed a lot is that Google has gotten heavy on the updates, just to improve their search results for the common user and combat, basically spammers and people who are using like link farms to kind of like manipulate, search results and SERPs, what they call SERPs. The main thing, one of the major things that changed or true, I think that they're true when it comes to mind is EAT, or the authority for your life, your money needs. Those are anything related to financial and health related, websites.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot hit them hard. The ones that cannot basically just outright put out wrong information because it can basically ruin people's lives when it comes to either their finances or health. You don't want to put out wrong information. So that's been put up in somewhere of 2018. And it's been one of the largest updates because you've seen a lot of health-related blogs that we were kind of just putting information out there that was not like certifiable by doctors. So one of the things they did is you had to have an actual doctor, certified doctor, and they even approve the content that you put out before you actually. And those are one of the ranking factors for anything that's related to health and finance. For the other one, the biggest one would be the topical authority. So Google does not, if you only put out a little bit of information about a certain topic and not cover all of the related content to any specific niche, it doesn't really give you as much authority. And this is, regardless of like link building and building links from, related, websites and or informational websites and your niche. So, link building is still number one, obviously. But the topical authority one of the biggest, kind of changes over the last 3 years. So if you talk to anybody who does SEO now, if you do not talk about or cover anything completely related to everything in that specific topic. So let's say you run a blog about auto parts, auto repair, right? Well, you have to basically crank out a lot of content that's, well written, and have a well structured site that's easy for blogs, for Google's bots to crawl and for users to navigate. You have a hard time kind of ranking for anything related to that, specific topic, for example. So those are the main three, I guess, things that, that have changed over the last week. So basically it just means it's a little bit more work, to rank than before. So
it seems like a common trend just in general with digital marketing every single year that goes by after, I think, 2010. I think I was still in school at the time, but I think everything after 2010, every year just gets harder and harder and harder to market. And now after 2020, since everyone has been online, or everyone's shifted to online, it just gets even more competitive, not only in the SEO side of things, but also on the ad side, the email side for me, CRO, etc. So I think we're slowly getting to a point where things will keep on evolving at a much quicker rate than I think we'll able to keep up with. But I do remember that big update because I used to work in the finance side of SEO, and a lot of our sites got tanked because of that update. So it's funny that you bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the largest, like, the ones. Now, basically, Google does updates every month or so. They call them like the Google Core Update. That's every month or every couple of months. But, it doesn't really affect us at all, like in the agency. When we know what we're doing, we're not doing anything shady, nothing. Basically just follow the guidelines and basically try to. That's what Google says, really, is just you serve the user. That has to be like your number one priority, is to bring forth a better user experience. That's basically how they want things to go. They want people to spend more time coming back to Google, using Google, especially now because this is 2023 and we're already started looking at dangerous or kind of like things that come in through AI. Yeah, I mean, it's good for at least for business owners in a way. As a business owner, to me, it's just something that's going to help me increase productivity across my team, across my agency, across my business. We'd be able to theoretically, we'd be able to take in more clients, for example, and keep the same number of employees. Not necessarily have to fire anybody, really, or replace anybody, but just instead of having one person, for example, work on 5 clients, they can work on six or 7 or 8 clients, for example, just because they have that tool of AI in their hands. And Google, coming back to Google, they're worried because everybody's talking about how everybody's trying to move on to using Bing because Bing is connected to OpenAI and ChatGPT, and now everybody's using ChatGPT. It's just things that moved way too fast, basically just since December of 2022.
I'm starting to notice just a lot more of my friends. I literally had a conversation with my father a few days ago, and he's like, have you seen this ChatGPT thing? I'm like, I've known about this thing for since November. He's like, yeah, we just made a song for your sister about it, using it. I'm like, if my dad is now getting into it, that means, a lot of other, like, I guess, older generations are starting to try it out, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. And it could be spewing trouble for search-based, or like the search engine, like Google, and people moving on to more things like Bing because it already has it built in. Just on from your professional expertise, like, how would you see that affect Google's like top line or bottom line when it comes to the AI side?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at everybody's talking about how it took like a month or probably less to get to 100 million users for ChatGPT, for example. But I wouldn't worry about Google, to be honest, because they've already been using AI for like probably 6 or 7 years for their most basic, queries. So I don't really think that's something that they should worry about. Even the people who are using it, for example, ChatGPT, they're basically just still a niche. You're not talking about 3 billion people using ChatGPT. You're just talking about 100 million. It's not the same as the everyday people, average shows are not using, ChatGPT for their day to day. It's just us because we're on Twitter and we're we're always like looking for new important things. Yeah, that's why we get to see these things. But I don't think Google itself will actually have to worry about it. Maybe it's kind of worrisome for us, like business owners, or if somebody's running a website, for example, specifically an information-based website. That's something I would worry about because you're not, because Google came out with Bard just this last week. Now we can have access to it. I was playing with it yesterday. It's actually a little bit faster than ChatGPT, and the way it kind of like provides you with answers. So what I would be worried about is if you're a business owner, if you have like a publishing business or an information-based blog, for example, that's something I would worry about. Like, because people were not going to be able to, they're not going to need to show up to your website. You're going to have a lot less impressions and clicks on your ad spend, because everybody's basically just going to be getting that information straight onto, like their screen without moving onto your website. So that's where I see things a little bit getting worrisome for those business owners. But again, Google itself, I don't think they'll they'll have an issue and like moving forward because, it's a big company. They have a lot of money. They can compete. The only thing that they should worry about is Apple. And like the only thing that we've heard rumors, for example, and that's something that we've heard is that Apple is working on its own search engine because they already have like the devices all over the world, like probably billions of iPhones.
They have the distribution.
Yeah, they have the distribution channel already in there. That's really something that Google should be worried about. Otherwise, AI, ChatGPT, Bing, I don't think it has to be. It will be a big issue for them.
That would make sense to see if we switch from just chat-based integration, which I prefer. It's a lot of fun to just like, hey, tell me this information, tell me that information, because you get the information spit back to you immediately, and it's like you're talking to a friend, quote unquote, instead of like best SEO agency in Asia, and then you have like you show up, right? And you have to like go through all the different links. So I think it's definitely going to be a lot harder to get those impressions, like you said, because it's going to be based off of this AI actually recommending you, as well as how would you pay like for those kinds of placements in the AI platform. So I can see it definitely getting harder and harder, like you said, to just advertise based off organic search. Now, I wanted to quickly switch topics here onto the agency side of things, since I know you've been running your agency for almost 20 years now.
Well, the agency has been around since 20. I've been in the business almost 20 years, but the agency has been around since 2017. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I remember when we talked at Geek Out, you're like, I've been doing this for decades. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But
yeah,
since you started the agency, I know that you slowly but quickly evolved from, doing everything yourself over to now just handling communication. So how has that transition been over the last 6 years?
Well, you basically, when you start off the first days, basically you see yourself. I didn't start hiring until, I secured a few contracts, secured a few clients. And then there was the issue of training the team. You can't just bring in anybody. They have to know what they're doing. And so it was kind of juggling things. You gain clients, marketing and sales, and actually fulfilling the product, the actual service to actually do the work. And doing when you're only working with 2 or 3 clients, for example, it's not that much, but you're doing a lot of admin stuff like invoices and stuff like that. So it was pretty slow, and I did that on purpose. I didn't want to go scale it fast to 20 clients, to 30 clients, to 50 clients, and just like start hiring from day one. It took me a couple of years to actually get to a decent number of clients with just about 4 people in the team. But then at that point, we had a foundation, we had a framework, a process to train people, a process to onboard clients and actually do the work. And so we had everything in place before we started going out there and hiring more people and training them. And we took our time. With that. We basically take about 6 months, because again, you can't go out and hire somebody who's already good at SEO. If they're already good at SEO, they're either running their own business, a website, an agency, whatever, or they're a freelancer. It's just kind of like, so you have to bring somebody who's clueless about SEO and train them and get them excited about it. So going through that, then we moved on slowly to, I worked on slowly building my personal brand. I didn't really do it for that specific purpose at first, but then it started bringing in a lot of leads, a lot of clients. And I was like, yeah, it's something that is interesting. It's the most effective way at least for me to bring in clients. So I just kept, showing up to events, doing a little bit of YouTube videos here and there, and I've done a few in Arabic and English, and I don't know if I've done any in French, but it kind of spread my knowledge and my expertise here and there. And that kind of helped us get to where we are today. About 32 people in the team. Gotten to that point where I'm really only doing a little bit of work when it comes to marketing and sales. Even then, I have to kind of space that out. I can't just go out and be like, oh yeah, we're ready to take on like 10 more clients, because we can't. Just for every few clients, you have to have a certain person in there, like an account manager, a few assistants. So I don't really do much of it anymore. We do slowly kind of onboard a few clients every month, talking about 3 or 4 clients top every month. And the retention is pretty insane when it comes to SEO. We're talking about 3 years, 2 years. Just like people stick around with you for a long time because the ROI is there for them and it makes sense. So they like to stick around with us. The other thing is we started adding more services, kind of like branching out into Google Ads, to email marketing. Not email marketing for e-commerce specifically, but just email marketing automation for a lot of businesses. So that's kind of how we kind of grew, but it was pretty slow, and it's not like I was impatient about getting to a certain income level, so I didn't really care. So I was like, I'm happy with this. I'm building a team slowly. There's that atmosphere, there's that community within the team itself, especially if you're doing this all completely remote. So you plan every 3 months, every 6 months to meet up with the team. They basically just fix, they love getting together. We build that like camaraderie, between the team and everything. So it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experiment. It is still alive and kicking. It's good. It's profitable. And it's just gotten to a point where, okay, I'm looking at my calendar. It's pretty empty. So I'm trying to kind of like spread out to other things. I've been trying to grow my personal brand even bigger because it's not that big. But then that was just like, I was not too excited about it anymore. Specifically the content creation and the personal building, the personal branding thing. But yeah, and it's been a fun process, and I kind of liked getting to this point, and now looking for more challenges.
Absolutely. I'd say I would agree with you on the retention side because I used to do everything, Facebook ads, email, landing pages, CRO, everything under the sun, you name it, we did it. And we expanded too quickly. And we made that mistake of bringing in too many clients all at once, which meant we need to hire a lot of people all at once. And that just ate into our margins a lot. Plus, it was super, super stressful. So when we decided to switch only to doing email, we did that. I followed the same rules as you did. We started off slowly. We just had a handful of clients that were paying a high amount because we're a boutique agency, and now we're slowly starting to expand one person, like maybe 1 to 2 people at a time, and eventually that flywheel will get faster. But my main goal is not to expand to 32 employees like you, but it's more so like maybe like 8 to 10 maximum, and see how much more clients we can handle at that point. But I do like the slow method, and the content and personal brand is the best way to go ahead and grow your agency. I think it's just,
Yeah,
it builds too much trust.
yeah, it's hands down. It's the most effective. When you can try anything, and it wouldn't bring as many results as because again, you get to connect with people directly as a person, and they trust you. And then especially if you go to an event, for example, and stand up on stage and talk. So you basically assert yourself as that, credible source of information. You have that expertise. And there's something to say about standing on a stage because, for you, like you'd have to have like the confidence to do it. I'm at this point where like, I don't even care. I just stand up and start talking because I've been doing this for so long. But the people who kind of sit there and watch you and listen to you, it's the shortcut to having authority, in your field, especially if the event is kind of like a highly regarded event in whatever space you're operating in. And people actually like really listen to you. And, most of the time I'm not even like that ready for it. I do work on a few slides here and there, but just, and people kind of see how confident you are, for example, how easy it is for you to start talking about your craft. So that kind of like makes it really easy just to trust that person, especially when they see, for example, that you put a lot of effort into putting some content, for example, on your social media. So it makes it easier for these people to kind of trust you. And, it becomes for them, it's just like, oh, is there a way for us to work with this guy? Oh, we like him, for example. That's how I like the feedback that I get every time I sit up on stage and talk about what we do, for example, whether it's SEO or Google Ads or whatever kind of like case studies that you showcase, for example. or you talk about specific techniques that you want to teach people. And, that's actually very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm personally excited to do my first event in the summer with Affiliate World. So I've done speaking engagements before, but that was in a past life. That was before I got into marketing. So this is going to be completely different. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, Barcelona's gonna be interesting. Yeah, um, I like it. It was my first event that I attended, like back in 2019 with the Chill World.
Got it. So that just kickstarted everything else for you. So you got on that stage, and then after that, you got invited to more and more.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, when it comes to speaking, I basically just sent them an email because they had a form. Like, if you wanted to talk about something, you just send them an email. They got back to me. They said it won't be possible because I only emailed them about 2 months before Barcelona. It's like, well, it's kind of late, but we can find a place for you, like in Bangkok in December, because they do Bangkok in December. So yeah, I was up on stage right before the pandemic, and I was supposed to headline again, and then in Barcelona 2020. But then you know what happened.
Yes.
Yeah. But I was on their online version, the Ad World, and Ad World has gotten bigger and bigger. They kept it going, and gets 50,000, 70,000 attendees because it's cheaper and it's online. You get a lot of eyeballs on the Ad World version as well. And it's kind of weird because technically you do it live, but not really that live. But it still feels good. The interaction that you get through that platform.
That's amazing. I'll definitely have to check that out. Now, when it comes to the team building side of things, a lot of the team that you have is remote, right?
Yeah, the whole team is actually remote.
How have you been able to build up that culture with your team, with everyone being remote, especially with a team of 32 people?
Well, we didn't get to 32 like right away, but it was, we had to build that. Kind of like little foundation of about 10 people, and 10 people was small, good. I was quite comfortable with it. And it felt more like just a bunch of friends hanging out and making money, more than it felt like like an actual working place or just colleagues.
Right.
It helped the fact that everybody's young, like younger than 30, younger than 25. Even the people who kind of feel a little bit awkward, once we met a few times, they kind of like felt a little bit more comfortable, and they kind of just opened up and became like just more like friends. What I've tried to do is, outside of work or even during work, what we do is we basically just meet up online at least like 3 times a week, at least 3 times a week. We're always talking about work, talking about this, especially when we had like a lot less client. And I was very involved in everything basically. So I was basically the one who managed communication with everybody. So what I did was just try to put, not put pressure, be extremely nice to everybody, saying please and thank you to everyone. And they saw how I was dealing with everybody, especially when there was a mistake. Somebody makes a mistake, I don't go out there and start yelling at people. That's, what I'm going to say is like, I try to be as kind as possible to everybody and not put any pressure on them because they already have a lot of pressure from clients directly. I don't want to be another source of pressure, source of stress. So I try to like, the way I do things is I try my best not to add any stress to them. So I want them to feel as comfortable as possible. So those are the few things that we've done. Try to be as kind as possible. Try to build rapport as a leader, and then make sure that they treat each other nicely. And like, because there's this saying that you want to know about your culture, you have to see how your team treats each other when you're not in the room. That is something that you have to think about. How do they treat each other? Are they friendly? Is this guy who acts like the boss when you're not around, telling them what to do? So that's the thing. You have to clarify, obviously.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. And that's something that we've been able to implement in our team quite well as well. Because when I was a freelancer working for other agencies, the best way that I learned was not when that pressure was brought onto me by the boss, like you said. It was when they were okay with me failing, and they were okay with me learning from my own failures. And that's the best way that I personally learn. I fail forwards, and I try to instill that kind of culture into our agency as well, because that's going to help them alleviate the pressure from me. And it's going to help them learn a lot faster because they're like, oh, okay, let me try this. This doesn't work. Okay, let me try this in a different way. And then it ends up working.
Exactly. Yeah, it's basically like allowing them to fail because we've had issues. For example, there was this one account manager who basically made a big mistake that ended up, we basically lost the client because of that mistake. And everybody was telling me you should probably fire her because of the mistake that she made, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? She just started a few months ago. I don't think this mistake, is big enough that I would kind of, fire the lady because of, the fact that we lost that client. But it didn't matter. We definitely were going to have to deal with it. It was a bad client, to be honest. So I was okay losing that. So I was like, I'd rather just keep this person on board, trust her and tell her just not to make this mistake. I'm pretty sure that she's going to learn from this mistake and not make that again, which kind of worked because she turned out to be one of the best, account managers over the next few years. She, improved a lot in terms of, learning about SEO and doing SEO and being one of the best account managers that we've had. And yeah, it's not really like, and like everybody around who saw that, they didn't think that, oh wait, just because she made the mistake, I'm going to be allowed to make mistakes as well. They know that, they know it's not okay, obviously, but it's something that they, that everybody kind of learned from. So
yeah, that is always the best case scenario. And I'm glad everything turned out for the best with that specific employee. Now, with all that said, I think this is a good time to wrap up the show. Where is the best place for everyone to find you?
I'm pretty active on Twitter and LinkedIn, Instagram as well. And basically, it's just my name. You can just look up my name and you'll be able to find me on any and every platform. I'm just not on TikTok. That's the only one I have, played with.
Yeah,
but I do post a lot on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn is basically I'm just using it lately. I've been using it just to hire people. But I'm planning on going back to, putting out some decent content, some interesting content about the things that we're finding out. Like when it comes to SEO, when it comes to running an agency, it's an interesting world that we live in right now. And the fact that you have an agency, so you get to see things from like the client's perspective and how to run an agency and how to keep the team happy, how to, it's challenging, obviously. But it's fun to follow along the journey like this, like ours.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, with that said, it was a pleasure to have you on, Hassan, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, Nikita, for having me.
Thanks again for joining us on the Scaling E-commerce podcast. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you want email marketing tips delivered straight to your inbox on a weekly basis from yours truly, then check out the link below or in the show notes to subscribe and join my newsletter. If you're a D2C brand with at least 10,000 email subscribers and interested in starting a conversation to work together, then go to aspectagency.com and we'd love to chat with you. And if you want to stay up to date with anything email and SMS, just follow me on Twitter at Nikita Vakrushev or check the show notes for the link. With that said, I'm Nikita, and I'll see you in the next one.